People come to the Canadian Rockies for many things: verdant forest, mountain views, and roaring waterfalls. Some few are also drawn by tales of fish scales, backpacking with rods and lures, and are willing to travel far and wide, across hill and dale, following old legends to catch a fish. Many people come to the Rockies to fish, and Jasper is no exception. There are popular fishing destinations, such as the pristine waters of Maligne, Talbot, and Moab Lakes. For decades, however, there have been rumors amongst locals of a near mythical lake in the northern reaches of the park, far up the Snaring River valley, stocked with fish in ages past, that have been ceaselessly spawning, lie the teal waters of Harvey Lake. To get there, our anglers, Liam and Jesse, would have to travel over 40 kilometers through bush and over rock, while climbing over 2,000 vertical meters and cresting 3 alpine passes. Believe it or not, this is the shortest way to get to Harvey Lake. Setting off along the decommissioned Vine Creek Trail, spirits were high, or so we thought.
I first heard about Harvey Lake from Liam several months ago when discussing potential trip plans. And at the time I thought, why the heck would we walk so far to a lake? I was thinking pristine alpine traverses and open and airy, and no, it turned out we were going to a most likely mosquito-infested lake. Granted, I'm sure it's beautiful, but that was the first time I heard a few months ago.
Since I was a little kid, was when I first heard about Harvey Lake. I always would look at maps when I was a kid. I mean, I guess I still do look at maps. And it was always intriguing because it's in the middle of nowhere, but it's named. And that's unusual, really, because it's in a very, there's not much around there in the map. But it's named, and I'd heard of some people that had gone there, and it had always been a big adventure. And now we're going.
Now we are going.
Yeah, it'll be interesting once we see it. I mean, I guess we'll be pretty much upon it when we see it, with all the mountains around it.
Thankfully, both anglers were extremely practiced in their trade, having built upon years of experience.
Myself as a fisherman, on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 4 to 5. It depends. I was more into fishing as a younger lad, less so lately. But
as a fisherman, scale 1 to 10, less than Jesse, 2. I mean, I grew up fishing. I haven't fished much in recent years. I would rather always do other things than fishing now in my life. I've always wanted to come fishing in Harvey Lake. It's probably the only fishing destination I ever really wanted to go to, but I don't really know much of what I'm doing fishing whatsoever. I know how to cast, I know how to tie a knot. I might be able to know a good lure here or there, but I don't know much. I like it, but...
The valley north of Vine Pass has not seen much human traffic in the past few decades. Bits of trail and occasional signs of historic garbage point back to prospectors surveying the valley in the 1950s. Working into the alpine, views start to open up, and atop the first windy pass, the mosquitoes disappear, if only for a few minutes. Camping on the only patch of flat ground east of Mount Thornton, the anglers look forward to fishy feasts to come and to see what the mountains bring for tomorrow.
Oh, there it is.
Awakening to a morning thunderstorm and a blood-red sky foretold an unsettled day of mountain weather. Topping out on the next pass revealed a beautiful valley below, the Snaring River Valley to the west, and views of distant peaks to the east. If parks ever wanted to build new trails, there could be excellent backpacking loops cut across these valleys, with views that would rival other parts of the Front Ranges. A quick break in a scenic meadow saw a question. Who actually was Harvey that the lake is named after? Naming records from the early park days are often scarce. After all, there's still no clear consensus on who Mount Robson was named after, let alone many other lesser features. It is likely, however, that Harvey Lake was named for an early outfitter who operated in the Jasper and Wilmore areas in the 1910s, James Shand Harvey, who would occasionally work with the much more famous Curly Phillips. Traversing around a beautiful landscape, we crested the third alpine pass. Looking across the valley to a great view of Mount Knight, named for a former park superintendent. Descending into the Snaring River drainage, a mere stone's throw from Harvey Lake, the trip took a turn for the worse. While crossing a steep gully, I dislodged a small rock, which sent several microwave-sized boulders trundling towards my head. Jumping out of the way, landing on a bent ankle, I couldn't use my left foot, let alone walk. The boys helped drag me up to the only nearby flat-ish spot, and we set up camp as thunderstorms were rolling all around, hoping my hoof would feel better in the morning. Armed with wool-headed stubbornness, ibuprofen, and vice-like boot compression, I slowly hobbled down the ridge, getting our first glimpse of Harvey Lake, shimmering like a jewel in the morning sun.
Probably smells like a swamp.
Despite being far above the waters, the boys could see ripples that looked suspiciously like jumping fish. An unpleasant while later, we emerged on the shore of the lake to an excellent camping location with lovely cold water to chill my ever-swelling, ever-bruising foot. Reaching the lake, the anglers set into motion. After traveling over 40 kilometers to catch a fish, it was hard to blame them for being hasty.
fish jumping out there so far.
Armed with rod and lure, Jesse cast into the lake and waited. The waiting was not for long, as within 15 seconds there was a rainbow trout on the line. Liam cast next and fetched an even larger trout. If anything, the rumors had undersold the lake, and the boys were regretting having brought so much food.
Hey, high five.
I have a regret from this trip. Slight regret. I had packed what I thought was a perfectly rationed amount of food, and Liam took one look and said, "Oh no, you need way more."
You had nothing and it was like too healthy. Too healthy. You would have been crying.
Well, thanks to
And
Liam,
what if there was no fish here?
Thanks to Liam, I ended up bringing about 4 extra bags of chips. And you know what? I do enjoy my chips, so I can't complain too much. It just means I have to eat more food to make my pack a little lighter.
It is unclear when Harvey Lake was initially visited and when it was stocked with fish. Jasper Park staff and outfitters stocked lakes extensively throughout the 1920s and 1930s, often with specially designed water bladders on pack horses to transport fry. The parks itself ran a fish hatchery until 1972. Just beside our campsite, we came across very old cut logs with delicately carved, sun-bleached wall tent poles left with care by some early traveler for a future trip that never came. Recent ashes, saw cuts, and little bits of labeled flagging tape revealed that someone else had camped here as part of some sort of ecological survey. With sunshine, fresh fish, and surprisingly not that many mosquitoes, stoke was high.
Getting to Harvey Lake was, it was long. And it had good moments and lesser good moments. The bugs were not great at times. Bugs are never my favorite. There was a lot of bushwhacking. It was all new areas for me, really. So it was all stuff I hadn't seen before, so that's always exciting.
Getting to Harvey Lake was interesting. Coming from Eastern Canada, we don't have the same terrain. So I found it interesting and exciting. Of course, the elevation is always a slog. Some of the rubble fields were a bit tougher on the ankles. And we saw some bear tracks. We followed some bear tracks. We got stung by wasps. And, but you know, we made it and here we are. I had only heard rumors. And the rumors I had heard were that people had trouble catching fish that were small enough to eat. And so if that rumor had held true, I was very hopeful that there would be lots of large fish. And I did have some hope that when we got here, the fishing, I had kind of hoped the dream may come true to catch a fish on the first cast. And honestly, when I had a hit on the first cast, it was a little bit of a dream come true.
I'd always heard that the fishing at Harvey Lake was good. That could have just been legends. Because I know very few people that have come here. And I don't even know the people that I know that have come here fished. But growing up, I always heard that the fishing here was good, but you never know if that's true or not. It was rare to catch a fish, honestly, growing up. And I caught a fish here on my second cast. And it was a big one. Not bad if I don't say so myself.
Right now, I have a ratio of 2 casts to 1 fish.
I also have 2 casts to 1 fish as well.
I have the ratio of having 1 fish on per cast.
Yeah, but my fish is bigger.
Only 1 land.
My fish would eat your fish for breakfast.
Well, I don't know.
My foot was not getting any better. If anything, stubbornly pushing on to the lake had made it much worse. With swelling, bruising, and bolts of pain, a stern satellite message from my girlfriend advised me to not even think about ignoring it and trying to walk out. And so I did something I had never done before. I called for a helicopter.
If Ben flies out, good riddance. No, I'm kidding. Well, I mean, I always knew he had weak ankles.
I know one thing's for sure, if he flies out, I'm going to be taking his toilet paper from him.
An hour later, park staff arrived and I was whisked off to town while the boys stayed to enjoy another day of fish before starting the hike home. In retrospect, after x-rays and ultrasound and weeks of physio, I should probably have just called for help early. But the siren song of Harvey Lake was hard to ignore.
Will Harvey Lake ever become popular as a fishing destination? I very much doubt it. It's beautiful, amazing fishing. Not that I know anything about fishing, but you know, first, second cast catching fish, I don't think it gets better than that. And yummy fish. I think you could get here in 2 days if you had really long days and like packs, but I don't think fisher people would go through that. Maybe the odd one would, the adventurous one, but there's great fishing destinations that are closer and easier to get to. So I don't think so, no.
In my experience, there's not a ton of folk out there who do big backcountry fishing trips that involve a lot of walking. The sheer remoteness of the lake will deter 99% of people who may even consider it. That being said, the fishing here is worth the trip. So anyone out there considering it, give it a little extra consideration because it is very good fishing and it's a very worthwhile destination even if you're not fishing. Mix that with the extreme beauty and physical challenge to get here, it met and if not surpassed my expectations.
Could have a tea hut though.
It would be nice to have a cafe.
Cafe and a Korean fried chicken joint.
Cappuccino.
Cappuccino with fried chicken.
Chicken cordon bleu.
Chicken cordon bleu. Sweet potato fries.